It stopped. And it's only recently, after it was sold to Disney, that you have got the 7th and the 8th coming. Sorry, the 9th coming. The producer of Star Wars was George Lucas. And George Lucas is a Buddhist. So when he made the original 4th, 5th, 6th, and then 1, 2, 3, he incorporated lots of Buddhist principles into the movie. And that's why you have statements like, may the Force be with you, the dark side of the Force, the bright side of the Force. And the Jedi, they were modeled after the Sangha. That's why the Jedi cannot get married. The Jedi has to drop personal love for universal love. And the Jedi has a code of conduct. Okay? Now Yoda. Yoda is named after Buddha. Why does Yoda speak so funny? Fear you must not have. Why does he speak so funny? Have you ever thought? That's because it follows Pali grammar. Just now you just chanted. Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Panatipata is not to harm or to kill. To harm or to kill is Panatipata. Veramani, to abstain. Sikkhapadam, from the word Sikkha, a training. Samadhiyami, I undertake. Pali sentence structure is very close to Malay and Bahasa Indonesia strengthened structure, where the noun comes first and the adjective comes later. So we say meja hitam. We don't say black table. We say table black. And that's why Yoda speaks with the thing in sequence, in reversed. And who is Darth Vader's mother? Padme Amadera. Padme is a lotus. What happened to Darth Vader? From the good side of the Force, he turned to the dark side of the Force because of greed, because of attachment. And then what happened? Because of his unconditional love for his son, he was willing to give it all up and turn back to the bright side of the Force. So there is in fact a book called The Dhamma of Star Wars. You can get it online. The Dhamma of Star Wars, whereby all these are given in there, the Dhamma lessons of Star Wars. And that's why this interest in Star Wars. Okay? Have you seen Star Wars before? Yeah. Episode 4, 5, 6? No, you're too young to have seen episode 4, 5, 6. That was in the early 80s. But it began with episode 4, A New Hope. Then the Empire Strikes Back. Then the Return of the Jedi. Then it goes back to first episode where it tells you how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader, etc., etc. Okay? I do not know whether the new one will follow the Buddhist schemes because George Lucas had sold the rights to Disney. Now, we are not here to talk about that today. We are here to talk about this. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk in Bahasa. We're going to talk about this. Applying the Dhamma at the workplace, applying the Dhamma when you are far away from home. All three people here are far away from home. One is from Tenggarang, one is from Medan, and Vin's from? Riau. Wow. So they're all far away from home. Isolated. Can they apply their learnings of the Dhamma in the workplace? Now the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago. Now it's no longer correct to say 2005 because they think that his date of birth is 100 years earlier than what we had always taught. But his teachings remain relevant today, as I showed this morning. More important, he's the only teacher who actually invited people not to accept his teachings because they are his teachings, but for you to actually reflect and to critically examine his teachings and to verify it, and then only you accept it. Now, whatever our social status, our background, our age, our culture, our gender, basically we share something in common. We all search for happiness. We all dislike suffering. Are you aware that our life, my life, your life, is actually an endless pursuit of happiness? We are endlessly pursuing comfort and happiness. So when we tell our children study hard, we're not telling them to study hard because of its educational value. We tell them to study hard because then you get a good job, then you earn a better pay, then you get a good living, etc. We send them overseas, not because there's anything great in Australia or in UK. You're not from UK, right? I remember you're from States, right? Boston, yeah. United Kingdom is a nation in decline. Any one of you who have been to United Kingdom the last 10, 20 years will obviously a very old nation that's in decline. But whatever it is, people still seek for happiness. We send our children there for an education because we think it gives them an advantage in life. That advantage can help them get maybe a better job, a better qualification, and so because of that, they can have a more comfortable life. So if you look at it objectively, our life revolves around getting ourselves or our loved ones more happiness, more comfortable states, etc. Okay, that's a reality. But nevertheless, whatever it is, all of us regularly will experience suffering, negative emotions, etc. No matter what your status, you will have it. It's a common denominator of life. Rich people got rich people problem. Single people got single people problem. They think they're going to be very happy when they get married. And when they get married, they got married people problems. Okay, then they think they're going to be very happy when they have their children. And the circle goes on and on and on. Okay, those of you who are single, those of you who are married, those of you with children will be able to relate to what I just said. Okay, we're just endlessly looking at the next one, thinking, I'm going to be happy when I have that. Now, what distinguishes the Buddhist way, or the way the Buddha taught, is actually, in modern language, very, very simple. Most of us, you and me included, many a times, our decisions are made on emotion. If you look back at your own life, many of the major decisions that we make are very strongly influenced by our emotions. We get angry, we make certain decisions. We're very happy, we also make certain decisions. But emotions play a very strong influence on our decisions. What the Buddha taught us is that he wants you to realize that you can develop your rational mind such that your rational mind can make decisions that override your emotional mind. Okay? In other words, he's telling you to develop the rational mind, to analyze, think logically, and use intellect rather than emotion. And of course, he also taught us about harmlessness, ahimsa, compassion, interdependence. You know what makes you different from a non-Buddhist? What makes you different from a non-Buddhist? Think about it. The only difference is in there. If you say, I'm a Buddhist, like most of you in this room are, then you must have certain views which differ from a non-Buddhist. We call that right views. This is a pair of spectacles. I'm very short-sighted. If I take away my spectacle, all of you look like a blur. Okay? That's exactly what it means. If you're wearing the wrong spectacle, or you're not wearing the right spectacle, or you're not wearing anything at all to correct your visual defect, then you're going to see the world very differently from another person. The agamas were translated by people who are monks. The agamas is the Chinese version of the Nikayas, and they're all translated by monks, like Xuanzang, Fa Xian, highly attained monks. That's why the translation in the Agama is actually very accurate. While most of our Nikayas, especially those translated in the end of the 19th and early 20th century, they were translated by scholars who were not practitioners. They were academic scholars like Professor Rice Davies, Mrs. Horner. And they translated it from the intellectual viewpoint. What is samadhi in Chinese? It's zhen jian. Jian is how do I see you? So zhen jian is literally the correct way that you see the world. Samadhi. So if you have wrong specs, wrong power, wrong aesthetic correction, you're going to see the world differently from someone else. So if you say, I'm a Buddhist, then you will see the world in a certain way. You have this antivirus which will screen all the 6 sensory inputs. The Buddha said you've got 6 senses, 5 physical senses and the mind. And what makes you a Buddhist is that all the sensory input that comes into you is filtered by this antivirus called right view. And then someone here might tell me, but Dr. Wong, there are 6,000 suttas in the Nikayas. How can I remember all? You don't have to, because right view is 84,000. In Chinese we say 84,000法门. There are 84,000 Dhamma doors in Chinese. The door to awakening. 84,000. So poor Wins is saying, am I going to memorize 84,000 Dhamma doors? No. You only know 3 basic teachings. 8 for the Eightfold Path. 4 for the 4 Noble Truths. And the 3 zeros for the 3 universal characteristics. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Impermanence, dissatisfaction, and non-self. Because this is the very core of the Buddha Dharma. The other 5,997 suttas describe these 3 core teachings. So that's your antivirus. Everything that comes to you, whether you're walking in a supermarket or a mall or a boutique, a lot of information will come into your 6 sense doors. But you always have an antivirus called the 84,000 Dhamma doors to filter that information. And that's why when you have a computer and you on the antivirus, what happens to your computer? It slows down. If you want your computer to be very fast, off the antivirus. You'll be much faster because you don't have this always running in the background. But that's what mindfulness is. It wants it to be running in the background so that you filter all incoming data through right views. What is right views in Bahasa Indonesia? Sorry? Pandangan is very good. Pandangan means seeing. Now, your computer doesn't just receive information from USB port, Type-C port, and whatever new port that is in the new computers. Now, I've lost touch already. I dropped by at a Mac shop yesterday below where I stay, and they tell me, oh, no more USB port. Now it's all Type-C. My first question is, what's Type-C? I got Type A and B or not? Then the man said, welcome to the 21st century. We don't use USB ports anymore. It's all Type-C. So if Type-C must have Type A and B, isn't it? So whatever that goes in, the computer processes, and then it must do its work, right? How does a computer does its work? On the RAM, random access memory. So what is the RAM if you are a Buddhist? That's your right thoughts. Right view is the first of the Eightfold Path. The second is right thoughts. So the very first of the Eightfold Path, data comes in. You interpret that data through the screen of your antivirus to make sure it is correct pandangan. Then you have to act. Right thoughts. What is right thoughts? Don't worry, I won't ask anyone directly. Right thoughts, the Buddha said, 3 aspects. So right view is passive. Right view is your computer sitting there, information coming through the Type-C port, USB port, and don't know what else port. And all that goes in, the antivirus will filter all information coming in, whether through Wi-Fi, through Ethernet, or whatever. It has to be filtered. Then after that, you have to work, and that's the RAM. And the RAM is your right thoughts. What's right thoughts in Bahasa Indonesia? Fikiran. Okay, fikir is to think. Okay. Fikiran. What is right thoughts? The Buddha said 3 aspects. The first aspect of right thought is renunciation. Every time I say the word renunciation, everyone in the audience think, oh no, I can't be a monk. Oh no, I can't be a nun. No. That's not the renunciation that we are talking about. The renunciation of a monk and a nun is on one end of the spectrum. For you and me who are lay people, that renunciation is the renunciation of your greed, the renunciation of your pride, the renunciation of your arrogance, the renunciation of your attachment. And we are all playing this big game of snake and ladders, where as lay people, we renounce this slowly. The monk and the nun goes to the other extent. She or he renounce on the top level of the snake and ladder. Boom, they start there. Starting with sex. How many of you are willing to renounce sex? Okay, no, nobody is willing to, but never mind, that's another story altogether. But the monk and the nun start with that, because that is humankind's greatest attachment. Anguttara Nikaya 1.1, the Buddha asked, what is the greatest force that attracts a man? And what follows sounds almost pornographic, because he says it's the sight of a woman, the touch of a woman, the smell of a woman, the sight of a woman, the feel of a woman, etc., etc. We won't go into the details. But that's the greatest force that attracts a man. And the monk and the nun stops there, right at that level, at the top end of the snake and ladder. While you and me begin at the bottom, we slowly renounce and let go of our greed, our craving, our arrogance, little bit. Then we progress in this snake and ladder. Then somewhere in the second box, we get bitten by the snake, and then we go down again. Okay? But even the monk and the nun starting at the top, remember in snake and ladder, the 99 square is the biggest snake, and suddenly get bitten, boom, go back to square number 2. But we are all in this big square. And that's renunciation. The second aspect of right thought is not passive, it's active. And that's benevolence. You must not only say, I renounce all this. The second aspect is benevolence. Now, I will not harm you, I will not harm you, I will not harm you, whether physically or mentally or whatever. Not only that, the second aspect of right thought is on understanding right view. I will do my very best to help you. And that's benevolence. That means where I can help you, I will help you. So it is very active. It is not just passive. The third aspect of right thought is a word that has no English translation. It's ahimsa. Ahimsa is not just physically, I will not harm you. Most people will think of it that way. Ahimsa, I will not physically harm you. But ahimsa is more than that. It's more than just physically, I will knock you, or I will sabo you, I stab you in the back in the office. No, ahimsa is complete harmlessness, not just to you, but even to the electricity, to the environment. My life must not harm, not only me, you, but the environment, the surroundings, everything. There must be no harm in there. So this is right view and right thoughts. This is how you filter the data coming in. This is how you act on the data in reaction. Your RAM will is like a workstation for you to act. That's how we react to the world. These two things makes you a Buddhist. Because once you have do these two things, the other 6 things in the Noble Eightfold Path is easy. Because the next one that follows is right speech. Once you already have right thoughts based on right view, speech is easy. Your speech is not going to harm people because of ahimsa, because of benevolence. Okay? Then comes the next one, right action. That's again natural once you understand the first 2. Then the next one, right livelihood, which is what we're basically going to discuss. That is also going to be a natural flow. Then the next one, right effort. We go up the snake and let the game get bitten, come down, never mind, again we go. Get bitten, never mind, again we go. That's right effort, to constantly promote what is good, avoid what is bad. And then, right mindfulness. Remember your antivirus? That's where mindfulness comes in. And the last one, not right concentration, but right stillness. Sama samadhi, I've repeatedly said, is not correctly translated as right concentration. Because sama samadhi is actually right stillness. What is Samma Samadhi in the Agamas? Anyone? Sister? Anyone? I'll give you a present if you can tell me the answer. Zhen Ting, right stillness. That's the Chinese translation of Samma Samadhi. And this can only be done by a practicing monk or nun, because they know what they're talking about. Which means, as you sit in meditation like just now and this morning, no matter what comes up, sound, thoughts, pain, ache, backside itch, whatever, we all have that, right? But whatever it is that arises, your mind remains still. You're not dead, you will still sense all this. But your mind remains calm, composed, and still. That is why the metaphor is always, you're like a mountain. Rain, thunder, storm, whatever that comes, you remain still. Just an observer. You're not dead. You have trained your mind to be calm and composed so that in real life, when you make decisions, it is going to be based on rational logic, not on emotions. Once emotion overcomes your mind, you are not going to think straight already. You're going to say things which you will regret later. We're going to do things which we regret later. How many of you have bought dresses that you almost never worn? I think everyone. How many of you have bought this and that which we never use? On the spur of emotion, because it's so nicely promoted, we buy it. But do we actually need it? We don't. Okay? Most ladies in this room will have 20 pairs of shoes, but you've only got one pair of feet. No, I'm saying it because my own daughter has at least 50 pairs of shoes. Every time I go there, I say, why do you need so many pairs of shoes? Yeah, Daddy, you won't understand one. It's true, I don't understand. It's all right, as long as it is still not Imelda Marcos, I can't make too much complaint, okay? So, that is right view, that's right thought, and that's the foundation of how your computer works. Because the Buddha said, all that you do originates in the mind. The Buddha said it, but you can verify it. You will see that everything you do begins with a thought in your mind. The quality of your action will depend primarily on that motivation. Hey, that girl on the extreme right is not here. I don't see her. Right? Not here. That Indonesian girl, not here. Yeah. I see the second one. I see this one. Or that one is working very hard outside. Okay. If you develop a good heart, you will see in Buddhist suttas and teachings, a lot of time they say heart. When you see heart, don't think of pop, 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 pop. Whenever you see heart, it refers to this mind. Okay? Then whatever and wherever you are in, whether you're in Singapore, Batam, Indonesia, whatever, the result will be beneficial because your motivation is wholesome. Then your activities also will be wholesome. Now, most of us spend more time outside our home. Those of you who are expats in Singapore, how often are you home in Indonesia? Barely. Most of the time, our waking time is at work. We spend more time with our boss than with our spouse. Isn't it true? You see your boss more than you see your husband or wife. They spend more time dealing with difficult co-workers, customers, than with our own children. So do you realize that work has become your identity? Do you realize that work becomes your social circle, satisfaction, accomplishment, everything? That is why I always tell people, when you go to a party, sometimes I attend functions, people will always come and ask, hi, what do you do? If I say doctor, habis, I got this rash. Okay. Or my mother-in-law got hemorrhoid, what do you think? Okay. So I do not musawada. I tell them the honest truth. I'm a school teacher, which is the honest truth. I teach in the School of Medicine for donkey years. I tell them I'm a school teacher. Everybody disappear. And I always laugh. If you really want to be left alone, tell them I'm an insurance agent. Boom. Wow, you have peace, the whole buffet for yourself. No one will disturb you. The workplace becomes a place where you and I will see the fundamental truths of life. Everything is frustrating. Everything is interconnected. Everything is impermanent. This is the universal fundamental truth of life. Now, the Buddha taught us a system of thought that provides us with very practical means to deal with our problems. Please remember, the Buddha's teachings are first and foremost practical. It is not about some reward in the sky. It is not about some pie somewhere where you live eternally ever after. It is not about that. It is not theory. It is not just a philosophical debate, but it is an actual way of being and doing. In his very first teaching, what is the first teaching of the Buddha? Many people will say Four Noble Truths. Some will say Eightfold Path. No, that's not true. The very first teaching of the Buddha is Majjhima Patipata, the middle way. He taught that neither extremes of self-indulgence nor self-mortification are useful. Both are useless. He taught the middle way. Majjhima means middle. Patipata way, middle way. He said both self-indulgence and self-mortification are useless. In the end, they do not lead to happiness. So we lead our lives, as I shared this morning, a balanced livelihood, the middle way. And the foundation is the Four Noble Truths. Paraphrasing it to modern language, life has dukkha. Do not translate dukkha as suffering, because the word dukkha means much, much more than suffering. And many a time people misunderstand the Buddha Dhamma. And they say, Buddhism say life is suffering. No, the Buddha didn't teach that. The Buddha said life has dukkha. The common denominator is dukkha. The Buddha did not say life is suffering. In fact, in other suttas, he taught many, many things which he say in life which is very happy. The only difference is this happiness does not mean it is eternal. This happiness is not lasting. Okay? But he said life has dukkha. And dukkha is not the word suffering. Dukkha has many meanings. Dukkha means dissatisfaction. Ajahn Thanissaro translated it as stress. Okay? There are many, many more modern translations now. My medical students will say emo. Life is emo, which is a pretty good word. The late Venerable Suvarno, a very, very eminent venerable in Malaysia, used a very beautiful Hokkien word. He said, bo song. Indonesians will understand Hokkien. He said, life is ultimately bo song. Something will go wrong, no matter how happy. And we suffer because we get what we don't want. And we don't get what we want. We want it to be permanent, eternal, etc., etc. No, that's not true, because the reality is the opposite. And even if you do get it, you'll either lose it or it decay, etc., etc., etc. And this dukkha is caused by our endless desire for more and our attachment to things. But the good news is the Buddha said dukkha can be lessened, dukkha can even be ended, because your craving and desire can be lessened. Your craving and desire can even be ended. And the way to slowly reduce our desire is by following the Noble Eightfold Path, which is what I just described. Now, the Buddha, do you know, exists in every one of you at every moment? Just that he's asleep. We call that the Buddha nature. That in every one of us in this room, within us, is a Buddha nature. Except now he's dido, fan kao, asleep, dormant within us. But every now and then you and I will have that moment of mindfulness, that moment of insight, that moment which awoke this Buddha nature within us, this Buddha mind within us, and then we did something that is based on what is right, rather than what is easy, or what is desirable, or what is the easiest way out. And then at that moment, you are momentarily freed from our defilements, our asavas. You know, we use the word asava when you do sharing or aspiration. We say, idang me punya asavakaya waham ho tu. Idam me punya, by my merits. Asavakaya me, my defilements. Waham is to be destroyed or get rid of. So by these merits, may I be able to get rid of my defilements. What are these defilements? When you sit in meditation just now, or this morning, if you had done what I told you to do, don't look at the neighbor, don't bother what your neighbor doing, why my neighbor sits so still, why I keep moving, you know. We all do that, don't we? You know, neighbor make noise and we say, hey, how come make noise? Now, you're supposed to look in. You're supposed to look into your mind. And when you look into your mind, what do you see? You see your defilements. You literally will see your defilements. How are defilements described? They are described as like you cooking porridge on a pot. So as you cook, as the porridge boils, it will go blah, 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 and you see these bubbles rising to the top of the porridge. The word sava means flow in, like a river flowing in. Asava, you know, in Pali you put the word a is the opposite. Asava is flow out, outflow. So when you sit in meditation and you look at your mind, just observe, you will see your asavas arising. What are these asavas? One is kama sava, our need for sensual gratification. You will see within your own mind that I want this, I want that. After this, I'm going to eat durian, or after this, whatever, whatever. We want continuous sensual gratification. And the second one is bhava asava. What is going to become of me in half an hour, as I said? What am I going to do after this? The I keeps on coming into the picture. The third one, the early suttas just put as ignorance or wrong view. The later suttas broke it up into two. And that's why in the later suttas you have 4 defilements. The early one, they list 3 only. Wrong views or ignorance. Okay? Which is actually interconnected. Okay? You will see this come out. But you can have a moment of mindfulness and insight where you suddenly decided, I actually do not need that evening gown. For heaven's sake, I got 10 evening gowns at home. I only attend 2 functions a year. Why do I need another evening gown? And you made a decision based on logic and rational rather than another decision based on emotion. If you need it, for heaven's sake, buy it. But a lot of things we don't need. But that's how advertisers work. That's how window dressing is so beautiful. That's why all engine oil advertisements have half-naked girls in bikini holding engine oils. What has a half-naked girl got to do with engine oil? Nothing. But the advertiser wants you to associate this engine oil with something desirable. Only men change engine oil. I hardly see women change engine oil. And so what is desirable to a man? A half-naked woman in the bikini. Associate the two. Then he will buy this brand of engine oil. Right? Why must you have James Bond advertising watches? You don't see James Bond advertise my Timex watch, do you? No, James Bond will advertise some brands I can't pronounce. Okay, Maurice, Lacroix, whatever. Because they want you to associate that, you wear this watch, you're as swerve, as Gaia, as James Bond. No, that's how advertising works. We want you to associate the two things. And then you find after you buy the watch, you're still Akau, you're not James Bond. All right? And then after that, you get disappointed. So, certain moments you look at it and we have that Buddha nature arising in us and we say, yeah, I need not have to do this. You have got rid momentarily of your defilement for that moment. The point is, can we do it at every moment? So, once you are mindful, you will not harm anything. Your panatipata is not just killing mother-in-law. You won't do anything for the environment that is harmful. No sound? See, even a monkey has that awareness. Human beings just walk past. Okay? In becoming a mindful worker, remember the quality we want you to develop is mindfulness. The whole purpose of your meditation is not for you to levitate. The whole purpose of meditation is for you to learn to develop the faculty of mindfulness so that whatever information comes in, your antivirus have an opportunity to work. If you remove the quality of mindfulness, whatever comes, we react immediately. Your antivirus got no chance. We want you to have that circuit breaker to be able to give your mind a chance to decide. Okay? So in becoming a mindful worker, you can use the Buddhist wisdom when you choose right livelihood, or be a good employee, or be successful doing it. In cultivating mindful work relationships, we make working with other people, including bosses, co-workers, difficult people, and customers, happy. I want to ask, how many of you here teach in colleges and universities? Hands up. Nobody? Not even one? Okay. Secondary school still okay. I've been teaching in a university for a long time. And I call myself the invisible man. My meditation is so good, I have achieved the art of invisibility. Serious, I'm not joking. Why do I say that? I walk into a tutorial room, or I walk into the lecture hall, my students I am not joking. That is 21st century life. So I stand in the front and I say, good afternoon. One or two, usually girls, will say, good afternoon. The vast majority can't be bothered. But that is reality. Think of your own university days. Then I will tell them, surely even when you're in kindergarten, you will have learned to greet teachers or say thank you. Oh, yeah, we did. Then I catch, a lot of our students are Chinese educated, of course, coming through the Chinese school system in Malaysia. The Chinese school system in Malaysia is almost military style. Those of you from Malaysia who went through Chinese school will know you go to school, you get one number, and then that number stays with you until you die. So, son, will you? Yes, sir. The fellow will stand up. That number literally stay with you until you die. So I asked them, when you're in school, surely when your teacher walked in, you would have greeted your teacher. Yeah. I say, why can't you do it in university or college level? That one's school only leh. Right? And then when they actually go out to work, they will complain and say, a senior so rude, consultant scolders, specialist scolders, MO scolders, everybody scolders, you're useless, blah, 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 which is very common. Okay, I mean, some of them are quite useless. But the point I always ask them, you complain to me that you say, people are rude, people are not polite, people are this. I said, have you ever walked into the ward and wished the other HOs, the other MOs, the other consultants and specialists, good morning, good afternoon? None. So why should you expect people treat you with such politeness? Have you ever said thank you? None. We have lost that art in the 21st century. You know, in the old days, when I was a university student, our lecturers used to tell us, no lecture should be longer than 1 hour, because that's the maximum attention span of any university student. 40, 45 minutes, that's it. Do you know that the attention span of a university and college student now is only 10 minutes? Because of all the instant this, instant that. It's no more 45 minutes. It's only 10 minutes now they attend. So we are taught now in training. Tomorrow I have to attend a morning to evening meeting in the university. During holidays, we have to attend these endless meetings where they teach us how to teach. For 4 days, Monday to Thursday, morning, evening, morning, afternoon, where some pedagogists will come and teach us how to teach. And now they tell us no student has an attention span of more than 10. You should not talk for anything longer than 10 minutes. You must stop and ask questions. And whatever you give as homework, you must not teach in the class. Because if you teach what you give as homework, nobody will read homework. Oh, I say, okay, now I know why they don't read their homework. So you give them homework, you must not teach that in the class. You can only ask questions, but you can't teach. You say, I thought all students read homework, don't they? No, not now, they don't. Okay, so new insights. But the point in Buddhism is, it always, the Buddha say, goes back to you. So if you say people are rude to you in your workplace, are you polite to people? So I tell my students, if you wish somebody good morning, good afternoon, thank you, people will also behave in that way. But the point is, we don't. Do any one of you go to work thinking, today at work I will try my best to make my colleague happy? How many go and do that? Yeah, she does. Okay? But if you do that, you will change the work environment. The thing is, we don't. Or rather, many do not. Okay? So we need to create a mindful workplace using the 4 Brahma Viharas. The Buddha said in all social interaction, you must use metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, happiness, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. In all social interaction. Okay? Instead, what do? Boss scold somebody, we'll say, he got scolded by boss. All right? Mindfulness means being aware and careful, being conscious of what we feel and do. Mindful thinking and behaving means not to act automatically, but with more and more awareness and to perceive critically our own habits and attitudes. A person can perceive himself, herself, will also be able to perceive others as well. Mindfulness in business, in the workplace, help us to treat ourselves and others more kindly with gratefulness and compassion and generosity. What is the attitude and aptitude the Buddha say we should develop? This is a sutta the Buddha taught to the Venerable Punna. And it is a model of how we must have the right attitude and aptitude. You all are very lucky. You have 6,000 discourses at your disposal. In the days of the Buddha, a student might listen to one discourse and for the next 6 years never see the Buddha again. So that's why when you read the suttas, it always begins with somebody approaching the Buddha and then requesting, may the Lord teach me the Dhamma in brief so that I may go back, reflect, contemplate, meditate, discuss, etc., etc., etc. So the Venerable Punna went to approach the Buddha and say, may the Buddha teach me the Dhamma in brief, the whole thing repeated. And the Buddha taught him a lesson which is almost the same as what is taught to Bahiya in the Bahiya Sutta. And that is, in the hearing, just the hearing. In the seeing, just the seeing. In the feeling, just the feeling. Which means do not be attached to it as I, my, or mine. But just to let it come, see it, and let it go. Do not be attached. So after he taught the Venerable Punna this, then he asked the Venerable Punna, what are you going to do now, Venerable Punna? And he said, he's going to go into somewhere and retreat and meditate on that teachings. And after that, he's going to teach when he thinks he's ready. So this is the conversation that follows. Well then, Punna, now that I have instructed you with a brief instruction, in which country are you going to live? And the Venerable Punna replied, Lord, there is a country called Singapore. I'm going to live there. Okay, a lot of Singaporeans, a lot of Indonesians here. And then the Buddha said, Punna, the Singaporean people are fierce. They are rough. If they insult and ridicule you, what will you think? If they insult and ridicule me, I will think these Singaporean people are civilized, very civilized, in that they do not hit me with their hands. That is what I will think, oh blessed one. That is what I will think, oh well gone one. But what if they hit you with their hands? What will you think? I will think that they are very civilized in that they don't hit me with a clod. But what if they hit you with a rod? And he said, these people are very civilized in that they don't hit me with a stick. And what if they hit me with a stick? And these people are very civilized in that they don't hit me with a knife. And finally, what if they hit you with a knife? And I think these people are very civilized in that they don't kill me with a knife. Okay? Now what does this lesson tell? It doesn't literally mean you go around beating people. But what it tells you is to have that right attitude and aptitude. It is all in your mind, he said. Okay? The beauty of the Buddha's teachings is that they always return your attention back to your own mind. Everything. And that means you can actually follow the path of awakening no matter what anyone else around you is doing. Your awakening and growth is not contingent on others. And that is why I'm very proud of the Indonesian Buddhist community in Singapore. Because you see, you're far away from home. You came from a huge country. You're all from different parts of Indonesia. The Singaporeans have no concept of what is a huge country, so you must forgive them. Okay, they don't know that Riau and Medan is literally very, very far from each other. Okay, but you have all gathered here. But the one very important characteristic is that you still gather together. You still learn the Dhamma together. You still practice the Dhamma together. And that is something which you will not see in Singaporeans and Malaysians. They go overseas, wow, happy only, everything forgotten, far from parents, who cares? But you see the Indonesian community, they're very well trained. That is where we differ. They treasure it. We take it for granted. And I'm not joking. Karma. Realizing that our karma lies solely in our own hands, as Brother Valley quoted just now. In work, we get out of it what we are willing to put into it. When you come to Singapore, you will realize nobody owes you a living. You work hard for it. If I own the problem, I also own the solution. I create my own future through my thinking, my decisions, my actions, my attitude. The past is in your mind. The future is in your hands. Do not give up.
Elfmeter-Witz beim Spiel um den Oberliga-Aufstieg in Südtirol. Beim Stand von 4:4 tritt Michael Palmer vom ASV Tramin an und setzt den Ball gegen die Latte. Loris Angeli ist außer sich vor Glück. Der Torwart von Dro Calcio stürmt aus seinem Kasten. Palmer hingegen kann es nicht fassen. Beide bemerken allerdings nicht, dass der Ball noch im Spiel ist und ganz langsam und allmählich doch noch den Weg ins Tor findet. Die Schiedsrichter gegen den Treffer.
So until the end, do not give up. You never know. You see, this is one of the sad things of our modern life. Worker dead at desk for 5 days, nobody noted. Nobody noted. See, I mean, this is very sad, isn't it? That we are now all so individualistic. We all wear blinkers. Don't kacau me, don't disturb me, I only do my work. Okay, it's very sad. First, remember, as an expat here, I have to say this, 2 of my children are expats. I've only got 2 children, both are expats. One in Bangkok, one going to Australia. Okay? No one is inadequate. Remember, each of you have the Buddha nature within. It's just fan kao only, give it some coffee, you will wake up. Second, we always have a choice. To be awake means you can make that option. To be mindful or mindless is your decision. Mindful work brings awakening to the workplace, being fully aware, fully mindful of reality. And then, of course, the next question is, what is reality? And why do I want to be awakened to it? My dream is very nice. The point is that our reality is the impermanence, the dissatisfactoriness, the non-self nature, and the interconnectedness of all things. And we want ourselves to be awakened to this. Because when you are always awakened to this, it frees you from your limitation. All things are impermanent. Good, bad, they are also impermanent. Don't give up hope. Never stop trying. They are non-self. Many of us make decisions because of the circumstances that we should have made us make that decision. It opens our minds to new avenues of thoughts. So, in short, our work now must become our spiritual practice, because we spend lots of time at work. And spiritual practice basically comes down to mindfulness. And which comes first, mindfulness or mindful work? It doesn't matter. What are you doing right now? That starts first. That is the first thing. And the other thing is that when you are an expat in here, you always compare. Why are the Singaporean having a better life? Why his car better, bigger? Why my house so small? Why his house so big? No, don't compare. We are all different. You do not know his problems. He doesn't know your problems. No need to explain. Understood. All work is practice. When an employee takes even the most mundane task as a form of spiritual work, then work and spirituality is one. Every kind of work has a spiritual worth. It does not matter what a person does. Only the dedication to and his attitude to his work is important. Now, as a teacher, I scold a lot, because in medicine you cannot afford to make mistakes. And so one of my school classmates, at school as in primary and secondary school classmate, who just retired as a school teacher in the government school, asked me, how do you reconcile your Buddhist principles with you scolding your medical students? You're supposed to have metta, karuna. So I replied, I scold them with great mindfulness and compassion. So to do sensible and satisfying work means working effectively, and when you work effectively, you bring success and profit for everybody. Now, as I shared this morning, the Buddha is one of the few teachers, or maybe the only one, who actually put livelihood into the spiritual path. In the Eightfold Path is right livelihood. The Buddha did not separate what you do at work away from the spiritual path. In fact, he put it right into the spiritual path. Your work is your spiritual practice. Look at this Zen story. I wish I had the time to share with someone who asked me a long question this morning, but I didn't. This Zen story, a bird catcher said to his teacher, my family has always been bird catchers. If we stop, we'll starve. By doing this evil work, can I still reach Buddhahood? See, he has insight that the work is not wholesome. The teacher replied, the mind goes to hell, not the body. So when you kill a bird, take your mind and kill it too. Doing this, you can reach Buddhahood. A lot of lesson there. See, he says the mind goes to hell, not the body. In other religions, imagine hell to be a physical place where they tie you, torture you, put screws in you. But in the Buddha Dharma, it's all in the mind. The mind goes to hell. It's all in your mind. Okay? So he said, when you kill a bird, take your mind and kill it too. Doing this, you can reach Buddhahood. Now in Zen, you're supposed to take this line, go meditate for 3 years, and then come back and tell me the answer. But we don't have time, so we'll do it immediately. The Zen teacher Suzuki taught that we should never harm other living things. Yet he reconciles enlightenment with bird catching. How can this be? The key issue is not so much what our body is doing, but what our mind is doing. Of course, the mind and the body are intimately connected, and one follows the other. Here, he advises the bird catcher to kill the bird if he absolutely must to earn a living, like your friend in the market, abattoir, etc., while keeping his mind not on killing the bird, but on killing the unwholesome mind. That is, killing desire and attachment. This, of course, is never the long-term solution. We would encourage the bird catcher to just change jobs if he could. Bird catching or abattoir or in the market killing things is simply not right livelihood. But for the time being, when there is no choice, when he must feed himself, his family, take care of his responsibilities, he has to make a living. Even though we all agree this is a compromised fashion. We have to work much harder than to keep our minds pure until we find work that is right livelihood. Now some people in this very hall have asked me some time before, Dr. Wong, the person said, I work in an advertisement company and we advertise all the casinos in Singapore. She said, I know that's not very wholesome. I don't advertise it, but I work for this company which does all this. We do the graphics, etc., etc. Is this right livelihood? Should I change? You can be a garbage collector in the spirit of love and service. It's a very wholesome job. You don't kill anything, you don't do anything wrong, and you can be well on the way to awakening as a garbage collector. But as a garbage collector, you may have other difficulties. There's no question that being a garbage collector is right livelihood. Don't harm anything. If anything, you're helping the environment. While a creative and high-paying position in a very corrupt and greedy field may not be. But whatever your job is, start there. Adopt the right mind and take that first step on the path. Walking the path may ultimately lead you to change your career. But at the personal and family level, your responsibilities may not give you that immediate opportunity to change or that luxury to change. You still have to have your responsibilities fulfilled. But in the end, it is only a career that will help you, that will make you fulfilled. So every one of you have to individually make a searching and fearless moral inventory of your thoughts, words, and deeds. Is my presence in my workplace making it a better place, or is my workplace making me a worse person? If you honestly think, after audit, that me being in that company is making me a worse person, then you should look for the opportunity to change. Okay? But you may not have that luxury, especially if you live in Singapore, where expenses are high, property is high, mortgage is high, and you've got responsibilities. Some battles are won in losing, you know.
Being spiritual has got nothing to do with wearing crystals or lighting incense and whatever else. I do all that stuff as well. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's not being spiritual. I reckon being spiritual is when you're just being aware, you're being present, and you're not getting caught up with what's happening on TV or what you're thinking, or you're just not attached to anything. You're just going, you're trying to move in the right direction that you feel is right for you, and whatever comes along your way, the people you meet, the circumstances you run into, being spiritual is just being open and allowing those things to happen and not being caught up with if they feel bad or negative or whatever it is. You're just open and you're learning from what you deem to be negative and you're trying to see what the lesson is, or you're getting just taps on the shoulder to say you're doing a good job, keep going. Being spiritual is just being aware and present and grateful for what's happening. You're just in the moment and you're just trying to see, your radar's on, you're just on alert to see what's going on. How can you see the best positive things that happen to you? And how can you turn the negatives into lessons? Turn them in and you try and see, be objective and look from the top and see, what's the lesson I'm not getting here? Am I still being too stuck in my head? Am I still being too egotistical? Am I still being ignorant? Whatever your lesson is, you're going to keep getting lessons like that, and it's going to feel like bad luck, but there's a lesson to it all. Being spiritual is not getting attached to the negativity and, binging on addictions or making up excuses or just telling yourself lies about how happy you are when you're not. Being spiritual is being honest and truthful with the situation.
Okay? So that's why I shared this morning, rites and rituals are important psychological support, but that has nothing to do with spirituality. That is being religious. Being religious is for your neighbor to see. Being spiritual is inside here. You can be very spiritual and not appear religious outwardly. Or you can be very religious but very empty spiritually. Okay? Righteous wealth, this is what I shared again this morning. The 5 precepts. Out of the 5 precepts, 4 are to protect your neighbor from you. Only the 5th precept is for yourself. And that's because the 5th precept, if you break, will remove the antivirus of mindfulness. You will lose right view. And that's why the Buddha stressed so much on the last precept. You must develop a mind that is in control. Why do people take alcohol? Because it feels good. It disinhibits you. And that's why if you have somebody who is very reticent or very quiet or not sociable, give the fellow some alcohol and then suddenly talking nonsense and doing all that. Because he's disinhibited. And that is what we do not want. We want to be in control. We don't want to lose mindfulness, because if you lose mindfulness, you can easily break the first 4 and harm other people. Okay? And my students, as usual, will have the best excuses. They will always tell me it's celebrating birthday and 21st birthday, so what's wrong with a little bit of alcohol, Dr. Wong? Then I say there are 100 of you in the class, there are only 52 weekends a week. Every week there's 2 people celebrating 21st birthday, so which means you're drunk every weekend. And then I always ask them, they say, I drink a little bit only. Then I say, can you be a little bit pregnant? You can't. It grows on you. You become bigger, 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 bigger. Look at Yanni. Okay? So when you become pregnant, you become bigger, bigger, bigger. It's the same. Alcohol is very addictive. So do not take the first step, because after that it's difficult to break the habit. Samajiva, wholesome and proper livelihood, a livelihood that is based on the ethical principle of non-exploitation of others and the environment, that is beneficial to others and self, and that is in harmony with the 5 precepts. But if you're a manager, an employer, it means you're not an employee now, you're a manager or an employer. It's also good that you ensure that your employees have positive attitudes, because it's good for your business. Positive attitudes and positive thinking among your staff will lead to economic success. And obviously a cheerful team that can talk to each other with metta karuna, encouraging each other, is going to perform better, which will lead to more profits, more shares, etc. And then take less MC. So can you, if you are an employer, employee, or a supervisor in this hall here, can you start your day with a psychological support structure, which we will call a ritual, for lack of a better word? Let me give you an example. How many of you here know Sister Wani of Indonesia? A few of them know, okay? Do you know that Sister Wani and her husband, Dr. Indra, owns the biggest diamond chain in this region? When you buy your diamond from Mondal Diamond, you start thinking, wow, must be one Jewish company, very established, called Mondal Diamond. It's an Indonesian family-owned business. Okay? That's Mondao diamonds. They own Mondao diamonds. And then for the teeny ones, the young ones here, you buy from Princess what? Princess Mondao or My Little Princess or something like that. With the word princess there. It's for the young people, lower end. And then they have the really atas one, Frank and Company, the one you don't talk of 5 carats, don't see them. But if you look at Sister Wannie, you won't even see a single piece of jewelry on her. Nothing. No jewelry and no war paint. Zero. She looks like, to put it very crudely, the aso you met in the hawker center behind here. You won't even know that this woman owns the biggest diamond chain in Indonesia, with branches all over Indonesia and every mall of significance in Jakarta. Her husband is a doctor, Dr. Indra. He gave up practicing medicine to assist the wife full-time. And so they run board meetings. She has meetings for her directors, her salespeople, etc., etc. And do you know how she begins her board meetings and that? With a ritual, with a Buddhist ritual. It is to instill, she said, these principles among them. Some time ago, I was at Venerable Dhammananda, the Bhikkhuni Dhammananda in Thailand. If you go to Bangkok, travel west, 70 kilometers, you will reach Venerable Bhikkhuni Dhammananda's monastery. She's the first Theravada nun in Thailand, ordained in Sri Lanka. At the time when I went a few years ago, the main building in her monastery was still under construction. In Thailand, as in Burma, the instant they finish one floor, they start using. It's not like Malaysia, Singapore, wait for CF and all that. There, the instant they finish one floor, start using. 2 floors, start using. But it was the cleanest construction site I've ever seen in my life. The workers were still building, and that was spotless. Not a single scrap, not a single stone out of place. It was amazing. We stayed for a few days in her monastery, and every morning all the construction laborers would sit in one big circle, and one of her senior nuns or herself will give a Dhamma talk to this big group of construction workers. Why are we building this? Blah, 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 blah. What are the Buddhist principles? And this is the most disciplined group of construction workers I've ever seen in my life. This is what we mean. Starting the work day, the company based on Buddhist principles. And of course, you treat them very well, etc., etc. So can we put that connection between business and spirituality, applying the values and ethos of Buddhism in your workplace? The Buddhist values of mindfulness, generosity, fairness, caring for all living beings. Can it be done? Can we create a workplace to practice Buddhism within working times? We can. It just depends on how motivated we are. Now, Christmas is coming. At the mall, you hear Christmas songs. Chinese New Year, Gong Xi Gong Xi song. Hari Raya, Selamat Hari Raya. Right, Taipusam, we got Indian songs. Why is it during Vesak month we do not hear Buddhist songs, other than in Indonesia? Why? In Indonesia, the Dhamma brothers and sisters there had actually individually approached the various malls and said, you play Christmas song, blah, 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 blah. During this holy month of Vesak, can you play Buddhist songs? We will supply you with the Buddhist songs. And these Buddhist songs are, of course, not the old ones, not the old ones which are very boring. These are the new ones like Kayana Mitra that I played for you all this morning. You know, lovely music. So when I was there one year during Vesak, there was one monk that was actually playing it. And in the car park, in fact, they put up a Buddha image for people to pay respect. Can we do that in Singapore? Can we bring this into the this Buddhist culture into the business? How many of you here are business people with influence in the business circle? You may be able to use that influence to introduce this little sapling. Maybe we can start with Brother Henry Bay, whichever share he has in which company. Even if it is 1 week before Vesak, we want to plant that first seed. And we will supply you with the songs. If you don't like the song, throw it away. You only use the ones that you like. Try it. Huh, Henry? Try it. Good. Now this is Windhorse, a major distributing company selling all kinds of things on the internet. And this is a UK-based company, of which many of its workers are Buddhists. And what they did was, this is their main storehouse, they actually built a stupa in the middle of the storehouse to constantly remind the workers of these Buddhist values. I'm not saying in space scare Singapore that you build a stupa, but you can just put a picture or whatever icon just to help. Okay? Singapore, they say stupa too expensive, too much land. Just a small icon. Okay? How many of you here love photography? Hands up. How many of you here own SLR cameras? Hands up. Let me see. Wow, only one own SLR camera only. Okay lah, never mind lah. Small little, those point and shoot camera. Hands up. Wow, so many. How many of you here own computer printers? A lot. Everyone, right? Everybody own computer printers. Why am I saying this? That's because of this. Brother, do you use a Canon or Nikon? Very good. Do you know where the word Canon comes from? Canon is a camera built completely in Japan. The man who designed the Canon camera bought a Leica camera. He dismantled that Leica camera down to its components and he said, I can do this. Why is this camera so expensive? And so he built the first Canon camera. And do you know what the word Canon originally means? Kwanon, which is the Japanese word for Kuan Yin. And this was the original logo of the Canon camera. Kwanon. See? See that? Now, all cameras must have lenses. Do you know what was the first Canon lens? Anybody's guess? This lens and this lens. If you can read the word written there, this is the Kashyapa lens, named after Mahakashyapa, the great venerable who started the Chan tradition. Because they said, we need lens with perfect vision, right views. And that's why they named it after Kashyapa. How did Canon evolve from Kwanon? Is because unfortunately Ang Mo cannot pronounce Kwanon. And so business being business, they had to make the word more modern and it became Canon. Alright, so good for you, brother. Continue your Canon camera. We must supply. How many of you here using Canon printers? I don't want you to buy other printers. You must buy Canon printers, okay? Only can buy Canon printer. So this is what I mean. Now the other thing in learning about non-self is that, of course, sometimes your boss will scold you, sometimes colleagues are unpleasant, sometimes customers are unreasonable. But one of the things you learn is non-self. Non-self means you can be like a muslin cloth. You know muslin cloth, like the one you see? Whatever that comes to you, let it just flow through to the end. You feel hurt because you stop it. You feel hurt because what did you do? You owned. That's why the Buddha said, in the hearing, just the hearing. In the seeing, just the seeing. In the feeling, just the feeling. The moment you become I, my, mine, it hurts. So be like a Muslim cloth. Let it just go through. This is anicca. Value your time. Presence in all the activities. Why does it keep on saying underneath, time is your most valuable asset? You notice it cuts through all the 18 slides. And that's very important for you to realize. You can dana money. Henry can dana 10,000 to print books. He can easily earn back 10,000. You can dana food, you can dana all kinds of things. You can easily earn it back. He can give you a car, you can always buy another car. But once he has given you his time, that is gone. No matter what Henry does, there is no way he can get back that time that he has invested in you. It is gone forever. There is no way that time can be recuperated or recovered. So when we give the gift of time, that is something I'm giving that I can never get back. It's gone from my life already. All right? So that's why this message writes through all the 18 slides. That time is your very important asset. Use it well. The thing is, youth is wasted on the young. We always keep on saying that because when they have time and they have the opportunity, they do all kinds of crazy things. My students spend more time playing Dota than studying books. Right? I always scold them, why are you playing so much time? Dota, every day, Dota. I say, do something better than Dota. It's just somebody's imagination in a computer lab, and you are every day playing Dota. Youth is wasted on the young. And by the time they know it, like our age, too late already. Okay? No. Press on. Obstacles are seldom the same size tomorrow, as they are today. And it is better to do something imperfectly than to do nothing flawlessly. And problems are not stop signs, they are guidelines. So when you're overseas or when you're somewhere in a workplace, always remember these words to inspire ourselves. And the problem is we look at yesterday and then we say, I haven't improved. No, don't look at yesterday. Look at 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and you will see that you have improved. If you look at yesterday, no, you have not. You can't perceive that subtle change. But if you give yourself 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you will see that you had changed. I'm going to end here because I need to go back to Johor Bahru. My wife is on the way back from Kuala Lumpur. She went to Kuala Lumpur to attend her primary school reunion. Some friends flew from overseas to attend the primary school reunion. I told her I won't be able to recognize my primary school classmates if they stand right in front of me because honestly, we have all changed so much. It's a nature, non-self. If you guys stand in front of me, I probably won't be able to recognize him. But it's good. So she's on her way back. She texts me. Never forget how far you have come. Never forget everything you have gotten through. Many of you come from very far. Some of you I know went through long circuitous route. Somebody just told me yesterday from Indonesia, I went to Kuala Lumpur to study. From Kuala Lumpur I did pre-U, then I went to America to study. From America I went back to Indonesia. Then my sister gave birth in Singapore. I came to Singapore to help and I stayed. You have traveled long circuitous route to where you are. You have traveled very, very far. You might think you had not changed or improved, but believe me, you had. All the times you have pushed on even when you felt you couldn't, but you had pushed on. All the mornings you got out of bed, no matter how tired it was because you had another project to complete, you had done it. Now that you are in a more administrative position, have compassion for the one underneath you. Because one of the problems in our work culture is, in my day, we work 20 hours or so, don't complain. Why you can't do it? Yes, you did it for 20 hours, but you have forgotten how you suffered in that 20 hours. Surely you don't want them to suffer. Okay? So I tell my children the same thing, In my day, we did that. Then my daughter, the lawyer one, will look at me and say, Daddy, if we still have to do all that, that means you failed as a father. The fact that we don't have to do all this is because you are successful. Okay? So obviously we cannot be like that. So don't tell your children, in my day, I walk to school, I take bus and all that. Now you are so comfortable, still complain. She'll tell you this. Okay? All the mornings we get out of bed, no matter how difficult it was, we continue. And we had become better. And now let's hope that we will be better bosses. All the times you wanted to give up, but then you did not. The guy underneath you who wants to give up, encourage him not to. Never forget how much strength you have developed and learned along the way. Use that strength to help. There will be new Indonesians coming in from Indonesia. There will be new people who come very frustrated and may want to give up. Help them. First thing, they have to be in Buddhist fellowship lah. You know how to help them. They're somewhere far away, nobody knows what. But within this community, there is so much that you can support each other. Okay? And one of the supports that you can give each other is, of course, meet for communal meals and share problems. Everybody needs to eat. You have a communal meal, people will come. Because everyone needs to eat. No matter how depressed you are, still need to eat. So food unites us. Okay? Even better, durian. All will come. Sure. Okay? If he doesn't come, revoke his Indonesian citizenship. Thank you very much.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.